Now, yesterday marked the third anniversary of the attack on the US Capitol building by supporters of the then outgoing President Trump.
Yes, attackers forced entry into the building in an attempt to prevent Congress from certifying the 2020 election results.
Well, that's as 3 more fugitives wanted in connection with the insurrection were arrested yesterday.
Well, we're now joined by former advisor to the Clinton and Bush administrations, Steve Gill. Very good morning to you, Steve. What are your reflections on the 6th of January, 3 years on?
Well, first of all, as you all look at your longest and most nasty election in British history, you're thinking, well, at least we're not the Americans. Joe Biden gave a speech from Valley Forge, Pennsylvania the other day, hearkening back to this January 6th riot that is being called an insurrection. Interestingly, apparently Joe Biden isn't aware that the soldiers at Valley Forge fighting the British in 1776 were the insurrectionists. So it's all kind of twisted as we look back on 3 years ago. In his speech, he kept attacking President Trump for only looking at the past, while his whole speech focused on January 6th in the past. So January 6th is definitely going to be used as a bludgeon to try and attack President Trump, as we're already seeing it done in the courts.
Yeah, which is, I mean, in some respects, a fair point, isn't it? I mean, there are very real questions about what his position was on this action taking place, and we've got 2 states now saying that they will block him from running in the presidential primaries. Now, whether that'll hold up in the Supreme Court is another matter. But this can't be swept under the carpet, can it?
Well, and it's interesting. There are over 60,000 hours of videotape from that day. Only a small portion of them have been released. And as we get more and more of those videotapes being released, we see that the Capitol Hill police were opening doors, waving people in. So there's a lot of facts that still have not come back. And you look at some of the people that were walking in, and some of it was pretty crazy. But other people were walking through the velvet rope lines, probably the first insurrection in history where people stayed within the directed corridors. So there's a lot more information to come out, and it's only kind of slowly bleeding out at this point. President Biden was making the point the other day that he and Gill attended the funerals of police officers that died that day. The fact is, no police officer died that day. The only one that died was an unarmed woman who was shot and killed by Capitol Police. So the facts of what happened that day 3 years later are still not completely clear.
And looking ahead to February, Steve, I mean, the Supreme Court is going to rule if Trump can run for president. How much do you think this is impacting him and his popularity, especially amongst his fans? Because it does seem to feed into his narrative, doesn't it? It's him versus the establishment. It does seem, as more and more of these indictments, it only serves to make him more popular, if anything.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've joked that with people seeing every time another indictment come, every time another prosecutor goes after him, his poll numbers actually go up. I'm afraid that American politicians may misread this and start knocking off convenience stores and liquor stores, thinking it might help their political prospects. I think the Supreme Court is going to take pretty short shrift on this insurrection case to keep him off the ballot. First of all, President Trump has not been charged with or convicted of insurrection for the events of that day, nor has anybody who entered the Capitol. They've been prosecuted for trespassing and perhaps for damage, but not for insurrection. And this 14th Amendment provision in the Constitution mentions the people who can be barred from the ballot, but does not mention the President of the United States. It's members of Congress, members of the U.S. Senate, electors of the President, but not the President. So they've got to make it clear first to win the case that it was an insurrection. Nobody really thinks these people entering the Capitol were actually going to overthrow the U.S. government in an armed rebellion. Second, President Trump was saying, go and peacefully protest, and actually did a Twitter saying, go home, quit doing this, all of which have kind of been scrubbed. And third, is the president even included in this constitutional provision that could remove him? I think the Supreme Court deals with it quickly, maybe with a 9-0 decision, and we get past this nonsense.
OK. Steve Gill, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed.